If you're trying to quit porn and you keep relapsing, chances are it's not because you're weak, it's because you don't have a real plan. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a real life relapse scenario that I worked on with a client recently and show you exactly where things went wrong and, more importantly, how to stop it from happening again. Most guys wait until after they relapse to ask for help, and that's the problem. I'll show you how to recognize the early warning signs and build a plan around your biggest triggers and actually stop a relapse before it starts. This is practical, it's clear, and you can start using it today. All right, let's get into it. Hey, what's up? Michael with Restoration Soul Care here. I want to take just a couple of minutes and walk through part of a session that I had with a client yesterday, working through a relapse prevention plan. And this is a one piece of a bigger, more filled out plan that I'm going to share with you, but it's really important because one of the things we talk about is having a plan. And if you don't have a plan, what's the thing they say? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You know, that's age-old wisdom. So part of the overall big picture relapse prevention plan is having a plan for specific and certain things that you'll walk into. And one of the things, if you go way back in some of the stuff I made, the 3 circles chart, part of that is honing in on what your triggers are. And if you can identify your triggers, then you can come up with a plan to tackle those triggers, or have a plan in place so that when you are triggered, you know what to do. It's not just sort of flying off the cuff and like, oh gosh, I'm hit, what do I do? If you land in that place, you'll probably go back to porn. So what I'm going to walk you through is a scenario where we can very clearly see, like, okay, what went wrong, or what happened, what went wrong, and how do we adjust so that next time we don't fall back into this. So I'm going to draw this out for you now. And again, this is just what we're going to call Relapse Prevention Plan, RPP for short. And this scenario happened over a 3-day period. One day involved a holiday, which I'll get into why that caused a problem. Left off the one. I'm going to be careful to not share too many details, obviously for confidentiality's sake. But I think this is important because I know that this is a common thing that a lot of guys struggle with when we're trying to get out of pornography addiction. So I just want to spend some time walking through it so that you can see exactly how you can develop a plan. So day 1, normal work day, using your work device, your work computer, and just in the normal course of a day, you could encounter something in a pretty innocuous way. So maybe you happen to look at YouTube for something and you encounter a thumbnail on the side of a person not wearing a whole lot of clothing. That's enough of a trigger oftentimes if we haven't spent enough time dealing with what's going on under the surface, especially if that is a trigger of ours. So again, I know this is assuming like we're diving to like the very middle specific part of a larger story, so context does matter. And if you want to work through your specific stuff, reach out. We can schedule time to do that. So there's a work device involved that we labeled unrestricted, and by unrestricted, it did not have a software that this particular client uses. And that software is on phone, personal phone, work phone, personal computer, iPad, all of the other devices. The only thing that was unchecked was a work computer, which rightfully so. And the idea is that a work device is enough of a deterrent that I'm not going to use that because it's probably being monitored by my company. And if I use it and I look at porn, they're going to ask questions. It could lead to me being terminated. That's a legitimate fear. So, but what I want you to see is when you are sort of deep in a triggered place and you don't have a plan, that stuff sort of goes out the window, right? What's the saying? Necessity is the mother of invention. You'd be surprised what you're capable of when you're put into a position and you're feeling triggered and all the things are going off. Your brain and your body have developed some significant patterns, really strong patterns, and they can figure some stuff out. Your body and your brain aren't dumb. They know how to get the dopamine hit. So there's an unregistered work device. We're going to say that this was where the temptation started. So that random dot. That's where the temptation started that day. And then here's where something happened. This device went home that evening, which is a problem. Day 2, we ran into a holiday, and this is a newer federal holiday, I believe. So a lot of people, it seems like this holiday snuck up on a lot of people. A lot of companies, frankly, because the holiday wasn't there last year, people didn't, companies weren't closed, I believe. So we ran into a holiday. That means home alone. And if you're a younger guy and you're single, this can happen pretty easily. And if you don't have a plan for this, it can be, really murky water. So one of those, filling out that yellow circle on our 3 circles worksheet, what are the triggers? One of the triggers that we try to look at is unplanned downtime, home alone, being bored, or using TV, internet, a device alone. So you can kind of see, like, day 2 crashing into this without a real significant plan is a nightmare. And then day 3, we're back at work, same device, comes back to work. Maybe we're at work. That's a little bit more of a deterrent to not use pornography, but they're still back to being tempted and triggered. And then here's what happened, and this is a pretty common scenario. This evening on day 3, that's when this person finally decided to, well, I'm not going to write that, I'm going to write check in. And by check in, they finally hit up an accountability partner, this person in their life that loves them, that will not shame them, that will not judge them, that has their back and is there to support them and help them. So after all of this, so walking back through this looks like it says Daryl. It says day 1 if you're just joining us. This is where the situation started. Tempted. There was an incident that evening. Yeah, I'm just going to do I for incident. And then day 2, holiday, home alone. Multiple incidents that day. And then day 3, there's another incident on that day too. So you might call this binging, a porn binge, where there's just unrestricted device that's involved. You haven't checked in with anybody. Nobody knows that you have this unchecked device except for you. And that's a problem. Doesn't mean that you can't eventually work to that, but out of the gate, if we're working to work through a pornography addiction, self-disclosure is your friend. Meaning the more access, the more vulnerable, the more open you are with a person in your life who's going to help you with this, the better off you are, because we're looking for blind spots. And if the blind spots aren't obvious, you probably do what most people who get into porn. There's shame around it, so that creates secrecy. And we withhold parts of ourselves from the people that we trust. Because it's like, well, if they really knew the depth of this, they're going to leave us or hate us or something like that. But the devil is often in the details. If you really want to work through this and get out of it, you got to get in the weeds and you got to say, here are all the ways that I could possibly access porn. And that doesn't mean you have to go crazy with software, but it's not going to hurt you. So here's where we're at. Day 1, you have an unrestricted device. There's no software on this because it's a work device. There was some concern about putting software on the device. Maybe that would alert work that there's something fishy going on, or maybe it wouldn't, the work device maybe has something set up to where it wouldn't allow an installation of some of that software to be installed on. So this is already sort of a red flag. Nobody knew about this device except for him. So that's happening. What I want to point out to you, if you're, you might already be sort of tracking along with me. This right here, day 1, is when the check-in needed to happen. And it really didn't even have to necessarily do with the device. The check-in was, hey, I encountered something at work today on my computer. I'm feeling tempted. If you check in right there, this is as far as it goes. We don't get to a relapse incident, and we certainly don't take the device home. Because the question could be from your check-in buddy, accountability partner, whatever you want to call it, is, oh, well, what was going on with your trigger? Well, I was at work and I was on my computer. Whoa, you have a work computer. Okay. Is this restricted in any way? No, wide open access. Okay, well, that's interesting. I'm going to make a note of that. So that we know that there's a way for you to access pornography. And then we can work through shame, we can work through guilt, we can walk through where you're being tempted and triggered, and sort of end it right there. But this requires something that, I talk about a whole lot in my videos, in the podcast. Nick and I go over this a bunch. This requires trust, because that's what's at stake here. Do you trust this person in your life to be able to love you through what you're being tempted and triggered by and to be able to help you? If you answer that question, I'm not sure I can trust somebody with the full weight of all of who I am, my faults, failures, limits, everything in between, then there's no amount of locking devices down that's really going to help you, because you have to be willing to trust yourself to other people. Not everybody's worthy of your trust, to be clear. Trustworthy people do trustworthy things. But who are those people? And that's where this stops. That didn't happen. So you got an unrestricted device, we're taking it home, bam, relapse. Oh, surprise, holiday, I'm at home alone all day. Nothing to do, bored, unplanned downtime, I'm alone, boom. Shame, boom, again, more shame. Well, I'm already home, I got this unrestricted device, may as well get the best use I can out of it, boom, third relapse. And then, you still haven't checked in, so there's no receiving of mercy and grace from somebody that you trust, that loves you. Nobody's tending to you and offering you mercy to help work through this and stop and ask you questions and intervene, because we don't want that. Day 3 happens, we're back at work, we're tempted again, we think we're over, we're past it, well, I'm back at work, nothing bad's gonna happen, and then boom, something bad does happen. And then after all of that, after that 3-day binge, now we're finally getting a check-in. It's not nothing, but it's too late. This is when the check-in starts. And you might be thinking, nothing's happened yet, what do I need to check in about? This is a preemptive check-in. So it's before anything grows and gets really out of control, I'm going to stop and notice where I'm at and that I'm being triggered and tempted. And that's when I'm going to reach out for help and support, because that's sort of the fertile soil in which the seeds of sin, pornography, what have you, that really start to take hold and grow. And then when that keeps growing, that's when we hit relapse. So I hope this makes sense and that this is helpful. Again, this is part of a larger relapse prevention plan that we would do this. You have to identify what your triggers are, what stops you midday, what grabs your attention, what arouses you to pay attention to something that elicits some desire to go to pornography, some desire to avoid the guilt or shame or whatever else you may be feeling in the moment. And then have a plan for that, so that it doesn't surprise you, that you've got something to fall back on. Like I said earlier, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So don't plan to fail, plan to succeed. But if you do fail, the good news is there's grace and mercy, and failure is the opportunity for education. When you fail, now you have an opportunity to learn. So this is what I say, don't waste your failure. If you're gonna happen into a 3-day binge, don't waste it. Spend some time with a friend, somebody you trust, and dissect the heck out of it so that you can figure out what went wrong and develop a better plan for next time. It's sort of the same thing when you think about war. If you're waging a war is not one battle. Usually it's made up of a bunch of smaller battles that when you add up over time, you win the war. You don't win every battle. In fact, you don't have to win every battle. Sometimes there might be an opportunity where, for a strategic purpose, you're saying, okay, obviously no battle's good to lose. I'm not advocating for sin. But okay, this is probably going to be a losing battle. And because I know that, what am I going to learn for that? It's not needlessly sacrificing resources and things like that. Like, there's a purpose and a plan behind it, if you will learn from it. If you keep losing battles and giving that up and never learning, well, then that's the definition of utter and complete failure. So what I'm saying is, don't quit. If you do relapse, if you do fail, what are you learning from it? Map this out, work through this again as part of your relapse prevention plan, and let's start counting victories up so that they add up to the larger victory that you want, where you're totally free from pornography. All right, I hope this helped you see just how important it is to have a real relapse prevention plan in place. Remember, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. But if you learn from your failure, you can use it to build real freedom. If you want to go deeper, I've got some coaching spots open and available and resources to help you walk this out step by step. Just head over to the website, rscky.com, and you'll find everything there. Again, that's rscky.com. And if this video was helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment with what stood out to you or maybe what triggers you want to get ahead of. And as always, let me know how I can help. Remember, you're not alone in this. Keep doing the work. Stay with it.